For your homeschool, we use a binder system, and it's exactly like it sounds. There's no scientific method to it. It is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to break it down into very simple sections, and you're going to put the work right in there. So first, let's talk about what I include in the binder, and then I'll show you how ours is set up. You may be asking yourself, if you're not an experienced homeschooler, why do you need a binder or some kind of storage system, even if you don't use a binder? Either a file box or some kind of way to organize your schoolwork. At some point, you're going to end up having to organize all the assignments and the tasks that you're asking your students to complete for the whole year. Whatever entity that you're reporting to is going to require that you show evidence of the schoolwork and evidence of what you're teaching throughout the school year. So you're going to have to come up with some kind of organizational system, and this is the easiest way that I have found to keep everything organized, and it doesn't take up so much space. Plus, it's very portable. So we use a 3-inch 3-ring binder for every school year so far. Now, you may end up having more than one as your student progresses, but keep this in mind. You only need to keep samples of their work. You don't need to keep everything that they're doing for the entire school year. I know it's tempting, especially when they're really little. You want to keep all of the sweet little things that they make and that kind of thing. Do yourself a favor and try to be discriminatory, and don't file away and don't keep every single thing that they're working on throughout the school year, because otherwise, by the time you've got 13 years, presumably, if you're going to teach your kids all the way through high school, you've got 13 years of papers per child that you're going to need to store. So you don't want the storage to become overwhelming. So just get in the habit of keeping what's important. They don't want to see everything, just samples, and they want to see a progression. So don't save everything from Halloween and then toss everything else. They want to see typically a progression, some from the beginning, some from the middle, and some from the end of the year. Now, if you're reporting to an umbrella group or a co-op group, they usually will only do it once a year. But if you're reporting through the school system, they usually require 2 meetings a year, so they split it up. What goes in a binder? What do you keep? Well, since you're responsible for teaching literacy, math, history, science, health, art, music, and then electives, those are all the things, those are the 8 things usually that you need to keep evidence that you're providing instruction on those subjects. You need to keep them. So it's easy to file them in this binder system. So you're going to need the 3-inch 3-ring binder, and then you're going to need subject dividers for each one. I have placed links for both in the description box, so if you want to use the ones that we use in our homeschool program, please feel free to grab those. And the other thing that I would recommend that you keep hard copies of is any correspondence that you're involved with the school district or your co-op or your umbrella group. Whomever you're reporting to, I would encourage you to keep hard copies of those correspondence, because something could always happen to the digital copy. It's so easy nowadays to keep everything digitally, and it's great if you're doing that. That's wonderful. But hard copies are essential, because anything at any point at any time could happen to those digital copies. And so you want to make sure that you don't get caught or surprised and you don't have what you're looking for. Make sure, though, that you're checking the HSLDA website or your school district's website to make sure that you are including all the required subjects. All the required subjects should go in this binder or whatever organizational system that you have. Do you have any organizational tips for your homeschool work? I would love to know. I'm always curious what other people are doing. So leave me a comment below to let me know. So, what's in your binder? Let's try to take a look at this. I'm not sure how this is going to translate on camera, but let's try to take a look at it. So the first thing that I recommend that you include, or how I set up my binder, is I put all of the correspondence from either the school system, which would be your intent to homeschool forms, any kind of notifications that come from the school system, or your co-op or your umbrella group would go here, and I keep it with the current school year per child. I title that section the admin section. It's usually not very long. It's usually just a couple of pages. Here, this is a summary of the curriculum, which the school system will want to see, a summary of your curriculum and how it's being executed and what's required of your curriculum. So they will want to see that. And then I just include some work samples. So this particular section happens to be Bible. So we include excerpts from what happens in our Bible lessons. Then we move on to literacy, same thing, summary of the course, and then several work samples. This is an example of a book report. This again is literacy. So this is a spelling test. You get the idea, right? We don't need to keep everything, just certain things, right? Then we move on to math. Again, summary of the curriculum and samples of math. We kept a few of these. Then history, again with the curriculum summary. This is actually a history lesson on Squanto, and so we combined it with literacy, which is very common to do in homeschool, but we put this in the history section. So we would have some samples from history. Then a summary of science. And then again, this is a sample of the scientific method when we were doing an experiment. So they can see the progression, the handwriting, thought process, method, all of that kind of stuff. And then here's an example of the Spanish class that we took this year. So this is the agenda or the syllabus for that class. And then since it was mainly a speaking class, what I did was include her flashcards as examples on what they were learning in Spanish class. And so that's perfectly acceptable too. Just keep something from their elective. And then the last section is health in this binder. So that's it. That's our binder system. Now, you might notice that I did not include any kind of art samples in this particular binder, and that is because when we do art separately, they're larger projects, and so they don't fit inside a binder. So you can keep those separately if you want to, or you can make a separate section in your binder for art. Now, again, we were talking about combining some of these subjects, and you can combine art with Bible class, with Spanish class, with science class if they're drawing, with literacy if they're writing in a journal. If they're doing some journal writing, they can draw pictures, you can use color, you can use paint. So you can combine a lot of these too, and so it does provide evidence of art as you are going through some of these subjects. But for specific art projects that happen to be larger on the larger side, I do keep those in a separate folder because they're too large to put in a binder. That's it. Just section off a binder, a 3-inch 3-ring binder, and then separate them by subjects. Then you can stick them on a shelf. If you need to take them with you really quickly, you just remove them from the shelf, and it's very portable. And like I said, I do realize that you can keep these things digitally, which I often do as well, keep some things digitally, but you never know what's going to happen to those digital items. And so you want to make sure that you're keeping hard copies just in case. Keeping it in a binder is the best way that I've found to minimize the clutter and to minimize the amount of things that you're going to have to store. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. I hope it helped. Make sure you grab the links if you're interested in these type of binders that we use down in the description box below. That's all I have for you this week. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.